Hey, this is Pradeep with Sensatura, and today we are looking at some fragrances for summer. Now, I have always struggled in the past when it comes to enjoying fragrance in summer as much as, say, spring or fall. In fact, summer itself used to not be a favorite season of mine, maybe because I have essentially lived 20 years of my life in summer, or just because the summer focused fragrances themselves are usually not as exciting. But over the years, I've been finding ways around it, choosing the right fragrance for the heat, switching things up with non-citrus fragrances, or just completely ignoring the norms. Partly because good fresh fragrances are difficult to create. That's why some brands completely ignore that category these days. On the other hand, there have been some good ones. This video is mostly citrus focused, but I will probably do a non-citrus summer list in the coming weeks. So let's get started in no particular order. First is Voyage d'Hermès. This is the parfum version from 2012, created by Jean-Claude Ellena. The EDT is also good. It opens fresh, citrusy and spicy. Lemon and cardamom do the heavy lifting. Aromatic, green with an aqueous touch. There are hints of fresh tea, white florals, and this soft underlying woods and musks. Overall, a fresh, spicy, woody scent that is still interesting and engaging with respect to the wearing experience. In general, I find Hermès as a brand that has a lot of great fragrances for the heat, be it from the signature line or from the Hermès line. There is the Jardin collection, which I have a travel set of. Some good ones there. I like Le Toit myself. Of course, there is the obvious Cologne line, which is also good. The Gentiane Blanche and the Rhubarbe are my current favorites. If I had to choose one brand for summer, it would probably be Hermès. Frankly, if it's one designer in general in 2025, it would still be them. Next is Paris Deauville from Chanel, one of the original three from 2018 as part of their Les Eaux collection, composed by Olivier Polge, of course. This is a citrus aromatic with some chypre touches. It does bear some resemblance to their own Cristal, though this one is more delicate and airy. It opens with this strikingly fresh burst of citrus. Think lime, orange with petitgrain, quite vivid and green. Shortly after, floral accents of jasmine and rose start to emerge. It's quite refined, as you would expect from this collection. As it dries down, it settles on this base dominated by patchouli, maybe even a trace of oak mouse. It introduces enough nuances to retain its abstract character. There is also a neutral, airy facet that makes it spacious and brings in this kind of crisp, watery coolness, not necessarily in a marine way, but in a distinctly green, sea spray, aromatic direction. It certainly has this breezy, countryside, rustic charm to it, able to embody that sort of upscale, picturesque, resort ambience beautifully. Last year, my summer was marked by Paris Edinburgh. Of course, the Eau de Cologne remains a staple. This year, I hope to wear more of this. Speaking of staples, this one returns from last year. It's called Vetiver from Comme des Garçons. This one's from their Series 4 Cologne line. By the way, that's how it's pronounced in its original language with a U sound at the end, and not just Vetiver. The French borrowed it in the 18th century and made it easier to pronounce. As the name hints, it is a vetiver based scent. It also steers clear of the usual swampy, starchy, or murky territory some vetivers get into. You get that bright bergamot up top, a bit of pepper for some lift, and orange blossom bringing in the clean, soapy cologne vibe. There is also cedar that plays off the vetiver to give it this sharp, crisp woodiness. It's got a touch of earthiness and spices too, especially cardamom and clove, which keeps it interesting, stops it from being one-dimensional. Overall, it's really well put together, elegant, clean, classy vetiver, surprisingly straightforward and traditional for Comme des Garçons release, does not get into the entire avant-garde angle. Reminds me of vetiver extraordinaire in some ways, so it could be a great option if you are not looking to shell out niche level cash. There are two others in the same line, Anbar and Citrico, that are also good. Think I might get one of those when I'm done with this bottle. It also performs like a typical EDT, lasts for about 6-7 hours, not like your watery, quickly vanishing Eau de Cologne. It costs about 60 euros for 125 ml, at retail that is. With how fragrance prices are right now, that's a pretty great deal for something this well done. Next is one of my favorite fragrances from a favorite brand. This is Azimur les Oranges from 2011, created by Marc-Antoine Corticato. This has got to be one of the best orange notes that I have ever smelled in a fragrance. But there is more. It is supposed to capture the setting of an orange grove in the coastal city of Azimur in Morocco. And that means not only the fruit, but also the leaves, stems, the land, and of course the Mediterranean breeze. That idea comes through beautifully in this transportive, carefree, spirited scent. The orange is supported by a medley of citruses, tangerine, lemon, grapefruit and so forth, which add a lot of fruity, fresh nuances, also making it multifaceted. So it ends up not being another orange juice type of fragrance. It's also green, spicy and aromatic. There are floral aspects coming in, notably the orange blossom, adding this cologne-like dimension to it. Then, as with a lot of other creations from the perfumer, the outdoorsy, agrestic side comes in. Dry hay, earthy moss and woody notes, adding a chypre touch, all washed over by this geranium. It has much more depth than your average orange scent, but at the same time doesn't go heavy-handed. It still has that breezy, aqueous side. I've already worn it a lot during spring, and I think it will remain in the summer rotation. Just a brilliant citrus chypre for the heat. Speaking of orange trees, this next one kind of tackles a similar setting, only this time it is Corsica instead of Morocco. This is a fairly new addition to my collection, released just this year. It's called Barbie Caja from Spoturno, composed by Christopher Sheldrake. This is a new brand launched by the granddaughter of the legendary perfumer François Coty. I did an overview of the 5 fragrances from the brand a few months ago. I liked 2 of them, 1921 Extrait, which is a recreation of Emerald, super expensive, over 520 euros. Right out of the gate, they seem to have gone for ambitious pricing. This being my personal favorite is not a recreation. Apparently the Coty family were pioneers of orange cultivation in the Ajaccio Bay in Corsica, and that's the setting it tries to capture. The scent itself is not fruity though. It's more so reminiscent of 70s, 80s, crisp, cool, floral chypre creations. As such, it's very fresh, white floral and green. The floral bouquet is rather abstract. Apparently it brings together orange blossom, lily of the valley, hyacinth, tuberose and jasmine. I get orange blossom the most. The greener aspects are also kept, supported by the galbanum, all drying down to this mossy, earthy, sort of an evening garden at a rich estate by the beach type of scent. There is certainly a bucolic touch, only relieved by the breezy, aqueous side. Extremely well constructed. So far my favorite release of the year. Let's do a fresh fougere next from Caron. This is Poronom de Caron Le Matin from 2022, created by their previous in-house perfumer, Jean-Jacques. This, as one would imagine, is a take on the classic DNA of the original Poronom. It's fresher, more aromatic, musky, not much vanilla, of course with the addition of clean, modernized laundry masks. The lavender is still here, mostly lavendin, not particularly herbal or scratchy. This for me is strictly an office scent, a functional, clean, decently done fougere. It very much feels like a designer, so you know what you're getting into. If you really want a top of the line fougere, you're better off going with something like Fougere Royale from Houbigant or Sartorial from Penhaligon's, maybe even Invasion Barbare from MDCI. Jean-Jacques was not particularly great at this brand, but this is one of his better efforts. Now they have an agreement with Givaudan and have appointed Louise Turner as their in-house perfumer. She had mentioned in a recent interview how she is going to modernize the brand, bringing in exclusive materials from Givaudan, because of course that's what they do. So who knows what's going to happen to these iterations of Poronom. Maybe they will stop these and bring a version with Akigala wood. Let's wait and see. After that, let's go to the brand of Goutal. This is Mandragour Pourpre from 2011. composed by Camille Goutal and Isabelle Doyen. Now, Goutal usually gets more appreciation for their heavier, ambery creations most of the time, which are indeed quite good. I, on the other hand, happen to appreciate more of their fresh offerings like Ninfio Mio, Duel, Odu Manolia, etc. This is my current favorite. They claim it's inspired by mandrake root, but for me it's more of a fresh, anise-focused citrus aromatic. Bergamot, mint, geranium all create this uplifting opening. Fresh, spicy anise and rosemary start to come in. It has that cooling sweetness rather than the licorice, inky facets of star anise. Hints of patchouli and soft amber in the dry down as well. Just amazing in the heat. This has always reminded me of my time in Marseille, south of France. They have this aperitif called pastis, which is anise flavored. So I happen to enjoy it for that reason as well. Okay, let's do another niche fragrance. This is Selara from Healy, released in 2008, composed by James Healy himself, of course. It's probably the only true marine fragrance in my collection, and I'm not talking about aquatics or typical blue scents. Though there is some overlap, marine fragrances like this, Oud Mineral, Copa L'Azur, and a few others pursue that oceanic direction in a much more focused way, I find. Opens with a burst of sharp citrus, lemon, and bergamot that quickly gives way to the brand's signature salty marine accord, something Healy has echoed in his other creations like Note de Yuzu and to a lesser extent in Cologne Officinal and Coco Bello. What follows is this interplay of salty air, vegetal seaweed, mossy nuances and so forth. And yes, it does have a faintly sulfuric edge, evoking the dense atmosphere of a coastline. And yet, it successfully captures a salty marine setting without tipping into this fishy, animalic or off-putting territory. Remains refined and wearable throughout. The quality certainly stands out, especially for something likely built on a synthetic heavy structure. It doesn't have the cheap harshness you sometimes find from designer aquatics. This is the fragrance that really put Healy on the map, and it absolutely earns that recognition. Let's get back to the cologne style of fragrance. This is Mediterranean Neroli from Zenya. It's part of their Essence collection. This happens to be the EDT version. I believe they have redone all the fragrances as EDP a few years ago. This one stands out as a bright, sunlit take on Neroli. It does lean into the coastal freshness without becoming overly sharp or soapy. It's not a reinvention of Neroli by any means, but still a very good rendition that feels undeniably Mediterranean in mood. It opens with a vibrant hit of Neroli, mint and bergamot, sparkling, slightly bitter and very natural smelling. There's a hint of rhubarb and lavender that adds to the aromatic touches. It doesn't push into the endolic or overly floral territory like some orange blossom heavy Neroli scents do. Instead, it keeps things breezy, clean and uplifting. Some understated cologne-like attributes in there as well. As it settles, you get the clean musk, some dry woody nuances from the cypriol and sandalwood. Those notes can go heavy, but here it's used to evoke the sense of sun-drenched woods and the dry breeze. It's not loud or particularly complex, but what it does quite well. There's a good balance between the freshness, dryness and breeziness that makes this incredibly wearable year-round, especially in warmer weather. Let's do a Guerlain fragrance next. This is Mandarin Basilic from 2007. Obviously, it's part of their Aqua Allegoria collection. This one is composed by Marie Salamagne. Once again, it's a vibrant, sunny, citrus fragrance that is joyful and uncomplicated. Like many in the Aqua Allegoria series, it feels effortlessly wearable in the warmer months. It opens with a juicy burst of mandarin, sweet, slightly tart, almost fizzy, alongside a bright, aromatic basil note. There's a sense of some green sharpness. As it begins to settle, you get the minor layers of orange blossom and chamomile, adding some floral softness and a bit of roundness to the citrus herbal opening. The dry down brings in some very clean, woody nuances almost transparent masks. Once more, it's not trying to be avant-garde or deep. It's all about clarity and lightness, and in that sense, it succeeds. Longevity isn't massive, but for something so light and airy, that's to be expected. It's the kind of fragrance you would want to reapply. These used to be quite cheap at discounters at some point, but now prices have increased. They have also released Harvest, Forte versions and such. But still, this EDT has that early Guerlain knack for polished freshness that I prefer. Let's do another office staple of mine. This is Lalique White from 2008, composed by none other than Christine Nagel before she became the in-house perfumer at Hermès. What you get here is a crisp, aromatic citrus fragrance that feels clean, elegant, and quietly confident. The twist comes in the form of tamarind along with ginger. They add this tartness, a tangy edge that keeps it from feeling too linear and commonplace. There's also a peppery quality that kicks in very early. As it transitions, you get a smooth floral element, maybe a touch of violet and elemi resin. They also bridge the citrus opening with the base of woody musks. It maintains a crisp backbone from start to finish. It is also fairly unique. As with Lalique, it smells far more expensive than its price point suggests. It is 125 ml as well. I have already went through like a bottle and half of this stuff. Just a phenomenal fragrance. Last one is from Frédéric Malle. I'll always have time for the likes of Géranium pour Monsieur, Bigarade Concentré, and the other well-known staples. But what I would like to highlight today is Odu Manolia by Carlos Benaim. This isn't a soliflor in the traditional sense. Those, more often than not, leave me a bit cold, unless they are built from contrasting accords that come together in an interesting way. This does exactly that. It opens as a tangy, bright citrus scent, easily one of the best bergamot notes that I have come across. Then we get into the perfumer's interpretation of Manolia, which itself carries that lemony character, lightly sweet, softly floral, with a clean, almost woody edge. It doesn't feel overly floral or heady. From there you get the vetiver, cedar, and a touch of earthiness. There also seems to be a nod to the floral, cool Chypre fragrances. And of course there's a lot of musks. Everything is handled with a feather-light touch, never tipping too far into one particular territory, floral, citrus, or woody, just hovering between them in this quiet harmony. It's not statement making as some other offerings from Frédéric Malle, but it's all the more beautiful for it. Lasts a good amount of time as well. Carlos is 3 out of 3 in my book with Malle. After this, Dawn, and Music for a while. I think his collaboration with the brand deserves more appreciation. Alright, with all that being said, those have been my citrus focused fragrances for summer 2025. And as always, thanks for watching, take care, and ciao.